Welcome to our gratitude talks. Today we have three different locations. It's a school strike day, so I'm minding four children in my house. So can't guarantee for a smooth ride, but we'll see how it goes. We've got Michael with us, who is the founder of Luma. Very exciting company. Before we get stuck in, just a few words about us. We are Saskia and Lisa, the founders of The Biscuitery, which is an online business specializing in personalized and branded biscuits. Kindness and gratitude is at the forefront of what we do. We like to say that we spread kindness in biscuit form. So biscuits is the commodity, but the real product is kindness. And a big thing for us is gratitude, because we feel it's very linked to kindness to self and to others. And welcome, Michael. Would you like to introduce yourself so we don't put any words in your mouth?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you for having me on as well, by the way, Lisa and Saskia. Yeah, so I'm Michael. As you said, I created LumaCube, which is a mindfulness product. The headline is that it teaches breathing exercises and helps you to fit them into your day. So a lot of mindfulness products direct you back towards a screen, and for me, screens are not the best place to be if you're trying to de-stress and practice mindfulness. So there's one actually here, just on the workbench at the moment. It is a mindfulness product, and what I'm really aiming to do is get that out to everyone really, and expose everyone to the power of those breathing exercises that have benefited me massively throughout my life.
Can you tell us a little bit about that breathing exercises and how it's personally helped you?
Yeah, so breathing exercises for me are a bit like a kind of video game cheat code for life, and once you know them, everything gets a bit easier. Anything that's maybe going to stress you out or cause anxiety, breathing exercises can help with that. So the product itself guides you through 4 different breathing exercises. The one that a lot of people will have heard of is box breath or square breathing. So the principle really is that you control the rhythm and duration of your breathing, and what science has shown is that this has a direct effect on our nervous system and can actually reverse the effects of feeling stressed. So when something triggers us or there's an upcoming event that's making us feel anxious, our bodies respond in the way they know how, which is to increase our blood pressure and our heart rate, reduce the pace and increase the speed, of our breath, and reduce the depth of our breath. And that's what the feeling of stress is. We all know what that is when you start to feel tense. That's our body's response to the thought. And breathing exercises reverse that and actually reduce and remove all of those effects by activating the opposite part of our nervous system. For me, I didn't access them until much later than I perhaps could have, and maybe would have benefited from. So my background is I had some quite bad difficulties with my mental health in my early 20s, with anxiety and depression, which I should add are far more common than at the time I realised, because it was the early 2000s and no one was talking about it. And I didn't really know what to do. I sort of lost a lot of my confidence and ability to do simple things when the anxiety became so severe. I could really barely make decisions around what to do with my day. And at the time, a lot of stuff was suggested to me that I rejected, and breathing exercises was one of them. I thought that they were a bit made up. Like they didn't really make sense to me how something so simple could make such a big difference to your body. And so fair play to the doctors that I was seeing at the time, because they were like, no, they do work. You should try this. And I just wasn't doing it because of my preconceptions. And so it took longer than I'd have liked for me to do it. But eventually I started trying them, and it sounds cliche, but like I haven't really looked back. Like I use them daily. I teach them to everybody that I can. I talk about it all the time, to the point of being boring, I'm sure. But I think the more you read about it, the more you use them, the more you learn about how effective they are, the more passionate you become about sharing that, and the more frustrated you become that more people don't know about them and aren't doing them already. And that's where the product came from, really, is how do we share these skills with a wider audience and get people like me, skeptical people, to try them by kind of decoupling them from all of the other things that people associate with the alternative therapy. So yeah, that's what I'm doing, really, is trying to share that with everybody.
Yeah. Well, how, if you say you use them on a daily basis and it's made such a difference to your life, it might be a really personal question, but are you managing your anxiety and maybe the depression that you had solely with breath work?
Not solely, no. I would say that breath work is the sort of linchpin. It's the thing that that works immediately. So I'm supposed to answer the first question. Am I managing anxiety and depression? Yeah, and it's a good way of putting, you do manage it. You know, I think it wouldn't be fair to say that you suffer with anxiety and depression, you get a diagnosis, and then one day you're just completely free of it, and it's I mean, maybe it is like that for some people, but not anyone I've met, and certainly not for me. So breathwork is definitely a way that I manage that on a day-to-day basis. But no, I'd say there's a number of things that all complement breathwork, and equally breathwork complements them. Mindfulness would be one of them. Nutrition and diet. It sounds simple, but things like that can slip if you're not careful, and if you don't take good care of and the fuel that you're putting into your body, then that can have a massive effect on your mind. It's not just things like weight. You know, like if you eat poorly, your body doesn't produce chemicals your brain needs in order to be able to function properly. Exercise, I guess, again, it sounds obvious, but it's another thing a lot of people don't do. And I've spoken to people who struggle with anxiety, and you say, oh, you know, what exercise do you get? And it's zero for some people, and that makes the body uncomfortable. So yeah, I think it's more about bringing everything together. But one of the ones that obviously stands out and fits really well into what we're talking about today is practice of gratitude. I think that's one of my sort of top 5 things that I learned, and again was suggested to me early doors by the doctors that I was seeing. You know, I was like, well, what do you mean, like gratitude, like just saying thank you to people? And it just, again, I don't think I would have I don't think 41-year-old Michael would like 20-year-old Michael. If I'm honest, I'd be like, what's wrong with you? Like, why do you say no to so many things, and why are you so skeptical? But actually, once you, again, and you guys know this, but once you actually dig into the sort of science behind gratitude practice, and regularly acknowledging things in your life that you're thankful for and that are positive, and you do that habitually, you know, you make it part of your day. It could be journaling, it could be something as simple as I do something called 3 positive things, and basically I try I'm not saying I do this perfectly, but I try to try and finish every day after I close my eyes to sort of run the day through my head, almost like a timeline. I think it's good for building your memory as you get older as well, by the way, top tip. But and pick out 3 things that were good that day, that went well, even better if they're things that went better than expected, and just note them, just make a mental note and focus on that. And it makes you a more positive person, and you train your brain to notice things that are good, as opposed to with anxious people in particular, noticing problems or threats or worries or things that maybe didn't go how you wanted. So yeah, it's a combination of things really, and they all kind of help each other. A good diet and exercise builds up chemicals in your body that helps your brain to adapt and grow. It increases neuroplasticity, and then that means that when you do breath work and when you do gratitude practice, your brain's in a better position to adapt and get better and grow. So a lot of research and a lot of learning things the hard way, I think.
I think that's often the case, though, isn't it? That we have to reach rock bottom before we make serious changes, and then once we see the benefit of those, we want to share it with the world, don't we, and shout it out there. And I feel like that's where you are. You're like, guys, I've been there. I know what it's like to sit in that black hole, and this is something that helped me. So give it a go. Which is amazing. Before we started recording, you mentioned that you are working on a little ebook to help share your wisdom and your experiences, especially the chapter about gratitude you mentioned. Is there a few things you're able to share about how people can integrate that in their days if they're new to it and skeptical like you were?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the idea behind the ebook was really a way of, I use the word, you've used the word wisdom, which I think is very kind. I don't know if I could say that about myself, but yeah, I guess it is. It's hard-won knowledge, isn't it? And I think what I've tried to do is write something that I wish I could have read when I wasn't doing well, and sort of try and put out like these things that have helped me, and actually back that up with science and say, look, doing this works because it changes the brain in this way, or because it helps you to think differently in this way, or it can help you stop a process of thought, or a sort of spur of anxiety in a particular way. I mean, it's short, so maybe calling it an ebook might be generous, but it's about 10,000 words, and the section on gratitude is really centered around, it does talk about the three positive things, because that's something that I do as much as I can, and I know that it's helped me become more, I don't tend to use the word optimistic, but I think that will mean the most to people is noticing positive things and looking on the positive side of things. You have to learn to do that. Like, I think some people think people are just born that way, and maybe they are, but you can definitely train your brain to be like that. But the other thing about gratitude, and this you'll know this from the things that you do with the free biscuit program, and people thinking of somebody to be grateful for and then doing something to acknowledge that, is that not only does gratitude like directly help you become more positive, but you're also then spreading that out around the people that are close to you, and so then that comes back. So like, not only, it's this amazingly powerful thing that we don't actually, I don't want to do that thing where you stereotype British people, but I'm not sure the Brits are great at it. Like, I think sometimes we get a bit awkward around really showing our feelings about really valuing a person. I like to travel quite a bit when I was younger, and I don't see that block in other countries. I think it's something to be better at here. So one of the things that I write about in the ebook is, and these aren't my ideas, by the way. I don't want to try and claim these. You know, that is a gratitude jar or a gratitude wall or a white. I've had in offices where it's been whiteboards, and just over the course of a week, you just accumulate notes in the jar that people have left about things that they're grateful for, or people that they're grateful for, or something that someone did for them that they're grateful for. And firstly, that means the person is thinking about what they can put in the jar, and that's moving your mindset to look for the positives and look for the benefits and look for the things that are going well, which is powerful in itself. But then at the end of each week or whenever work, you empty the jar out, and people take it in turns to read the notes. So then you see that someone was grateful for something you did, which feels great. The person that wrote the note gets to remember who wrote the note, because you be having a bad day and then go, oh, well, you know what though, Tuesday was amazing because this thing happened, or I was really grateful for that on Friday morning. And I'm just trying to find ways for people to build it into their day and then convince them that it's worth the effort. Because we know, like, starting a new habit is hard work, isn't it? Like getting yourself into a pattern of doing something is.
Yeah, I can't remember what the stat was, but it was around negative thoughts and how negative thoughts are at the forefront of our minds so much more than positive ones. So you really have to, like you say, go to that space in your brain and create reason to go there, because otherwise the negative will always win, kind of, in your mind.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I can pull a statistic out either, but my understanding of it is, and I think the best way to explain it is that in sort of evolutionary terms, like our brain's job was to keep us safe, and that meant being alert and looking for threats. And our brains respond, and this also makes sense, very quickly to things that are threats and notes them very quickly. And that makes sense, right? So like, I get the number wrong here, but like tens of thousands of years ago, further, when we were evolving and our brains were evolving to keep us safe, if there's a lion on the plains, that's the example I hear people say all the time, then your brain needs to see it and react really quickly. You haven't got time to consider whether that's something that's bad for you. And we still do that now. We know that, you know, you get a bit of bad news, or you notice something's gone wrong, or sometimes for people who suffer with anxiety disorders, it can be something really benign or completely made up, like that the brain has just created from a situation, and your body reacts. And yeah, you're totally right. So by practicing doing the opposite of that, we're actually strengthening areas of our brain that notice positive things and making it more likely that that's what it'll do on its own. It's like, we call it muscle memory, don't we? But that's not really a thing. Like, it's still your brain and your nervous system that are doing it. So if you practice, I don't play golf, but it seems like a good example. Like your golf swing over and over and over again, or any sort of physical move. Driving, that's another good example. Like, you remember when you first started driving, how hard it was to sort of steer, change gears, do the pedals, and now you're just doing it automatically because you've done it over and over and over and over again. It's the same thing. If you practice noticing positive things over and over again, then eventually your brain strengthens those pathways and just starts doing it. And one day you just realize, well, actually, I'm a way more positive person than I was. So yeah, it's immensely powerful, and I don't think everyone understands feel like I've said the science about 700 times in this book, but I don't think people appreciate the science behind it either, and the fact that this is been well studied and proven multiple times.
So bringing it back to the lower cube, then, is that what happens? That you basically through the breathing calm your body down, and that then calms your mind down?
Yeah. So essentially, we've all got something in our body. Now, I trip myself up getting these back to front from time to time. So when someone's watching this, if I get this back to front, I apologise. But we've got autonomic nervous system, which is like quite an old part of our body, and it's part of that sort of fight or flight response that we were talking about. So you notice a threat, and then your body responds because you need to run away or you need to fight. And our bodies trigger this now in the sort of modern day when it's not really useful. So you sit down you've got a big meeting coming up, your body knows there's a threat, so it triggers the sympathetic nervous system, which is the part that's in charge of you fighting or running away. That doesn't really help you in a meeting. And so doing a breathing exercise reverses that process by showing your brain that actually, and breathing calmly and relaxed, we don't need to be anxious about this thing that's coming up, and kind of brute forces the nervous system back. But then by doing it regularly, which is another thing that helps you to do, you build on that idea that earlier, where you practice something over and over again, you strengthen your brain's ability to calm down and to be calm in stressful situations. And I think that's the thing that breathing exercises have done for me over the long term as well as the short term. So in the short term, it's helping to relax your body quickly. But by doing it regularly, and by that I mean daily, 2 or 3 times a day, but pretty often, not like, oh, I did it on Monday and then 3 weeks later I thought, oh, I'll do another breathing exercise. Like you've got to put a little bit of work in, like you would with practicing a golf swing or learning to drive. Then it just becomes a more natural response, and easier to calm down when you do feel anxious or triggered. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen, like it still happens to me, of course it does, but what I'm able to do now is untrigger myself quite quickly. I mean, and that's what I go back to what I said at the beginning, like that's like a cheat code, isn't it, really? Like if everyone else around you suddenly feeling really stressed, you're able to bring yourself back down to a certain level, then it's so empowering to know you've got control over your nervous system, and over your body. And yeah, Luma helps you do that. It does it in a way that means you don't have to be sat at a phone screen or sat at your laptop or computer following a breathing exercise. And it also has a reminder to help you fit it in. So once an hour it lights up. It doesn't beep or blare or buzz at you. It just lights up after an hour to say you've been at your desk for an hour, or you've been doing this thing for an hour, and you should take a short break. And I think it's worth adding that you can do it even if you're not feeling anxious, right? Because again, we want our body to start to associate feeling calm as a sort of normal part of the day, rather than just going through your whole day like trying to get everything done. Oh, I've run out of time again. I'll start again tomorrow. Yeah. So am I perfect at doing it myself? No. Like that's why the product exists.
True.
Like, I need a prod, a reminder. I'm the worst for getting stuck into something I'm doing and then going, oh, it's 2 p.m. And so yeah, I just want that. I just want one on everybody's desk so that we can feel that like empowerment of their own nervous system, really, and know that they've got that ability to calm themselves down quickly.
Mm.
And I love what you just said about it even benefits you if you're not in the thick of it. You know, there's never a time when it isn't beneficial, and that's the same with gratitude and with kindness. You know, it never hurts to just do it, because it will always, you know, you almost build up this this reserve of goodness, and it's the same thing. I'm sure it's not that you can bank it and then you can not look after yourself for 3 months. That's not the idea either, but it's something that that will always benefit you, and it looks nice. You know, it's a lovely product if you have that on your desk or in your house. So it's not something that, like, yeah, if you have one there, that's it.
Of
Yeah,
course, I have.
it's subtle and stylish, and so I can totally see how it would benefit people.
Can I just I know that we're close to 30 minutes, but I was interested in the fact that you said that it was your doctor that helped you on this journey, and is that's not very common. I think that doctors go into that space.
Yeah, and it was 2003 as well. So like it was 20 years ago that I'm referring to that happening. And again, like I go back to what I said about probably wouldn't love 21-year-old, 20-year-old me that much, because it was uncommon to have a doctor that he was wanting to explore more sustainable ways to manage the anxiety than medication. You know, don't get me wrong, medication has its part in managing symptoms of anxiety or depression, but for me, it's not a fix. And so, I suppose one thing should have been grateful for having a doctor that was making those suggestions and healthy lifestyle changes. But it's difficult. It's difficult. And the other thing is when you are anxious, and I can't overstate how anxious I was at this time. You know, like that's when you're probably least capable of taking positive action, right? So I think perhaps this is a shameless product plug, but if he'd been able to sort of send me away with an actual device that had helped me to do it, I feel like I would have probably accessed it more than him just giving me a sheet of paper that explained how to do a breathing exercise, and then that was just another thing that I had to try and read and comprehend, and I wasn't in the right headspace to do that. But yeah, definitely unusual, and I think more usual now, but still probably not commonplace. And there's been some interesting studies published to show that mindfulness and controlled breathing have a similar, well, they were similar in effectiveness for, let me get this right, for reducing recurrent depressive episodes than antidepressants. So why are we not prescribing breathing exercises? Because you can do those for your whole life.
It doesn't bring in any money.
Well, I'll let you say that. I'll let you say that. I think, to be fair to doctors, they need to send you away with a solution, don't they? And I think medication is shown to work, and they can send you away with a prescription. And this sounds cynical, and I don't want it to sound too negative, because GPs are the hardest working people, you know, like anyone who's working in the NHS. But yeah, I think that's part of it, is giving them something to take away. And I think the more we can do to make it that the thing they take away is something that they can build into their life and make a sustainable part of just being healthy, and managing themselves, the better, really.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got a closing tradition, and you might have already answered it if that's still accessible, that GP. But if there's one person in the world who you really want to express your gratitude to for sending you on a certain path, or for just being in your life, or inspiring you, whatever it is, who would that be if you're able to share?
It's such a big question, isn't it? Because there's so many people. But I think in the context of the conversation we've had, I had a psychiatric nurse when I was 22. That guy called, you can bleep this out if we're not allowed to name people specifically, but like a guy called Tony O'Hara, right? And he was a psychiatric nurse in the NHS, and I think it was him who eventually got me to try the things that the GP, because I didn't do it when the GP suggested. So I think it would be him. He taught me, he understood me, and he understood I needed to have it explained to me why it would work for me to try it. He also taught me so much about thinking errors, and he changed my life, to be honest. He was the person who genuinely got me to try things that I now live by. And I've never been able to find him to thank him. Like, this is going to sound creepy, but I've tried to find him.
Oh, that's ace.
I have tried to find him. I've tried to find him on Facebook. I've tried to find him. It's just disappeared. I think he was real. No, he's not.
Like a beautiful mind style.
Maybe you did it all yourself.
Maybe it was you, yeah. Like, yeah, life of Craig, life of Michael.
Wouldn't that be a great twist at the end?
No. I love it.
Write the book. Write the book.
Yeah, no, he was real. And yeah, so I guess Tony O'Hara, top man, thank you.
Okay.
Let's do some
Let's
digging.
find him.
If we find him, we'll send him a
Start a
biscuit.
hunt.
Thank you so much, Michael. I feel like we could talk, another 30 minutes, hour about this stuff. It's breath work, mindfulness, gratitude. They are major players. And you clearly use them to great benefit. If you would like to send us any links of where people can find you, then I'll put them in the show notes. And the same for where they can buy the Luma product.
Yeah, great.
Thank you so much.